Let's cross down live to a library near you. He's Harold the H. Peacock, our Ipswich historian, and he's got a website, allthews.historyouthere.com. We're going to talk about a hoist, as in last week was a heist. This week it's a hoist. How are you there, Harold?
Fantastic, Danny. I'm looking forward to helping you because you were pretty keen to find out about hoists last week.
Well,
a week early.
I kept calling them a hoist, but it was a heist. So you're gone from a heist to a hoist. Could you tell us all about it?
Yeah, I'll tell you about Ipswich's most astounding hoist that happened way back in 1870.
Right.
And for this we owe everything to possibly Ipswich's greatest engineer. His name is Thomson Eden, who was one of the best-known officials for the first 50 years of the Queensland Railways.
Right.
He was born in Darlington in County Durham in the north of England in 1831.
Yeah.
And his first major job was in London in 1855, when he built gunboats for the Crimean War.
Wow.
And this was an amazing engineering feat because the British needed 120 gunboats in just 90 days, which they got, and they won the war.
Wow.
And so it was off the back of this astounding achievement that Eden arrived in Moreton Bay in 1866 and came straight to Ipswich to work on the railways. He was in charge in 1867 when a locomotive was taken to the Laidley side of Little Liverpool Range on the Scenic Rim, where it was then reassembled. Eden was therefore responsible for the quirky piece of history that the first railway engine to cross the Little Liverpool Range was in fact drawn by a team of bullocks.
Wow.
Now Eden was also responsible for building the first steam crane at the railway workshops, which was another technological breakthrough. He was responsible for the first iron and wooden bridge, which spanned Sadley's Crossing from 1875. He was also in charge of putting together the whole of the ironwork of Roma Street Station in Brisbane, and it's still there today as a monument to his skill.
Thomas Eden.
That's right. And also Eden invented a new style of cast iron flame plate in steam engines that reduced the consumption of coal. So he's an environmentalist before it became trendy. On top of that, Eden was an excellent amateur singer, and he founded and was superintendent of the St Thomas Anglican Church Sunday School here in Ipswich.
Oh.
So, Danny, there was nothing that this man couldn't do.
No.
But his biggest achievement was in 1870, because that was still being talked about 50 years later. The government steamer Leone came to Ipswich to be repaired by the railway mechanics, but they had a problem trying to fix a certain pipe. So Eden's marine engineering experience with the Crimean War gunboats was needed. To the absolute astonishment, Danny, of everyone present, Eden used his steam crane to hoist the steamer out of the water.
Wow.
And for the next 6 or 7 weeks, the people of North Ipswich marvelled at the astounding sight of the Leone suspended in mid-air while the repairs were done. Now, that might be common today, but back then, it was a revolutionary stuff.
It was amazing. Thomas Eden.
That's right. That's right. Thomson Eden. This single hoist was the talk of the town for half a century. The Leone herself vanished into the mist of time, but not so Thomas Eden, because his fame grew because of that astounding hoist that was made right here in Ipswich 151 years ago. It was a piece of engineering history that Queensland can claim.
That is an unbelievable story at 8:17. You can go to historyouthere.com. While you're at it, maybe do that's a great yarn, and again, more inventions out of Ipswich. Could you check out a spot for me down where Walter Williams lives now on the river? I can't think of the name of it. Along there, all the trees line the river. Down, you know what I'm talking about? As you're driving out of the city where the old bus place used to be with the coaches down there. Now, I'm told by David Neville Greenwood that years ago, back in the turn of the century, the steamboats used to come up there, and there were all brothels through there. That was where the brothels were. The ladies of the night. And you might look that up for me if you could.
I will, and I might even have a swing of the metal detector, see if I can find some loose change that they might have dropped.
Well, I tell you what, that's another name for it, the swing of the metal detector. What have you broken it and it's had to have a pin put in it?
Well, Danny, look, I'll have a look just for you, but next week I'm going to tell a story just for Peter Carey, something about his Toowoomba Mountaineers, amazing history linked right here to Ipswich. So, Peter, you've got to come back next week. I've got a good one.
All right, and don't forget, check out the brothels with your metal detector and come back in a couple of weeks and we'll find out really what brothels operated there.
Wow.
And go to allthews.historyouthere.com with Harold the H. Wah, 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 Peacock at 8:18 on West Bremer Radio.